welcome to the Melancholy Guy, a companion podcast to my Tumblr blog, The Melancholy Guy, daring to be black, open, and free. The adventures of a divorced, open, polyamorous, African-American male. I am the Melancholy Guy, Calvin, or CPJR if you know me. And today, I definitely believe that change I must and die I will. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my little podcast, the podcast that I started. I guess back in December of 2017. Basically, this podcast is about me, my life, my adventures, me coming into the non-monogamous lifestyle and coming out in the non-monogamous lifestyle and living this lifestyle for real 24/7. This is who I am. This is how I live. And I decided to talk about it. And I'm going to go into more about that. But my blog can be found at melancholyguy.tumblr.com. And like I said, the blog basically follows my life back since around about 2007, 2008, the time that I got married, my second marriage, and how I came or left non-monogamy. I want to say converted, but not really converted, but accepted who I am as a polyamorous person, or a person that has lived non-monogamously most of my life and will continue to do so from this point forward. So, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that it's basically broken down into three segments: past, blog, present life, and then the future. Where I talk about one of the reasons that I started this podcast is because I wanted two podcasts. I want to build a podcast studio, DMV Podcaster Studios, and then use that to bring more people into podcasting. And I'm excited about that. It's going to happen, and it's happening. I'm talking to someone about, doing another podcast, probably something about sports, something that I don't even indulge in or know anything about, or very little. Actually, I know about sports. I don't follow sports, and I boycott it. I'm boycotting the NFL. I boycotted last year, and I will probably continue to boycott 2018 and 2019. So it'll be interesting to see how I do with doing a podcast or being part of a podcast that will probably be about football. So we'll see how that works out. Anyway, I was gone for a while. I was sick. I got the flu. I started working and I left. And I haven't done a podcast since, I think it's been, the last time I did a podcast was episode 19. And it was on January 2018, and I was talking about swinging at consent. This was a time that the issue or the incident happened with Aziz Ansari, and basically I talked about that and how consent is something that's definitely dealt with in the non-monogamous community. It's something that especially if you're swinging or something, that's talked about how yes means yes and no means no. Ask. It's 100% consent. Having a bad reputation as far as consent can get you left out of parties and basically ostracized out of the community. So it's definitely a community where women are empowered to ask for what they want. Definitely not consent to what they don't want, and people are kind of free to talk about sex and what they want from sex and what they want from their partners and what's expected. And something just hit me when I thought about that, and I'll go into it because I have consent issues when dealing with some women. Some women in this community are kind of sexually aggressive, and it's interesting how as I accepted my demisexuality and sex was more available to me, how there were times that I didn't want sex, and sometimes I felt as though the tables were flipped on me as the one being coerced, and my no wasn't being accepted as a no. And it's kind of interesting to be on that side of it. It wasn't assault or anything like that, but it was definitely a no wasn't accepted, and I could see how being coerced or constantly, or being in a situation like the situation that the young lady was in with Aziz Ansari, I could see how she felt as if she was being coerced, and her wishes were not being honored, and she felt kind of bad. And I may go into some of those incidents. I probably will. I think they're probably in the blog, and I'm going to go into that. So today, I'm not going to go into the blog because I want to talk about the podcast. Basically, I mentioned in the last time that I will be doing a longer format. Welcome to the longer format. I'm not under the time constraint of 15 minutes. It seems like I have a time constraint of 3 hours. I don't think I'll be podcasting for 3 hours, not without a guest or guests or a live podcast or anything like that. And actually, I always could do longer podcasts, but I'm using the Spreaker software, or the Spreaker Studio, to do the recording. I could do the recording NPR using something like Audacity or some other type of MP3 recording software, and I could do the podcast for as long as my computer stays on. But I want to work with this because I do want to be able one day to start broadcasting live podcasts and actually have like the chat room thing going and all that kind of stuff. So the podcast basically, it's going to be going about 45 minutes, I think, will be the longest that I do it. Like I said, the podcast will be in 3 sections: past, blog, present life, and in future. I want to talk more about podcasting and building out the studio and the future of my life poly. When I say present, that's about me, life, how I'm living it now, and how my polyamorous life is playing out. I think you don't really hear much about practical polyamorous, a practical polyamorous life. How, and it's new to me too. I'm living a polyamorous life really for the first time, and I'm actually single for the first time, and it's kind of interesting. I'm not doing any type of traditional dating. I left all the dating sites because I don't really think they work for somebody that's polyamorous, especially me as a person of color. And then I want to talk about why I'm doing this podcast. Basically, I have actually had some feedback from the podcast. Some people have actually listened to them, say they've gotten something from them. Some people that I've known, I didn't know they were non-monogamous. I didn't know that they were even in any type of alternate lifestyle. And it's great to be here. And one of the reasons that I feel that I've been led to do this podcast is because in this space there is almost, and please, if you know of any, hit me up, Facebook, IG, text me if you know my number. That I don't know of any persons of color, black people, that are doing any type of podcast or writing books. The only thing I know of really is Black and Poly. There's a Facebook group, and I think they have a blog, and that's it. That's all I really know of people of color that are actually putting out content on a consistent basis. I have known some people that have started podcasts and then ended. So for me, when I got into this lifestyle, it was just me. You know what I'm saying? I listened to podcasts all the time, and everybody I listened to were were white and very educated, and those people I learned a lot from. I have high respect for them. Life on the Swing Set, Polyamory Weekly, Connie Meeks, Polyamory Weekly, Multiamory, which came about later. The first two I only had was like Dan Savage, Savage Love, and what was it? Life on the Swing Set, Cooper Beckett, Dylan Thomas, and Ginger. And then Shirley Katz, who was a polyamorous part. And then Shirley Katz had another podcast with her husband at the time. They broke up. And it's interesting for me that I was able to identify with them because I did grow up in white neighborhoods. So I could relate to them in their life. But there were differences in dealing with my community and our community because our community is different. Practical polyamory is something that you don't actually see on a daily basis. You don't actually see people living polyamorous lives. You kind of see the dating and the events and things like that. But since I've been in this, and it's getting close to like I don't know, it's over 5 years, 6-7 years. I haven't seen not too much practical polyamory. I haven't seen or ethical non-monogamy. I've seen swinging. I was a swinger. I know that lifestyle. It exists, but as far as like ethical non-monogamy, polyamory, polyandry, polyfidelity, you see dating. You see people so-called with these tribe things and all that kind of stuff, but you don't see people moving in, setting up house in whatever kind of triads, quads, whatever kind of configuration it is. You actually don't see people changing from, if it's a couple getting married, you don't see anyone moving in a third or changing any type of the living arrangement at all. And I haven't. And I think that's interesting for our community because I don't know that it's actually real or not. I think it's an experiment. I think it's like something that's cool, a trend. I think it's when you look at some of the younger people, maybe they'll catch on, but I think this monogamy thing is so ingrained. And guess what? I'm over 13 minutes now and I'm still going. It's so ingrained into who we are that it's going to be a while before you see some real practical polyamory coming up. Me myself, like I said, I live this I'm living this, full time, and it's who I am. I don't know how I'm going to live from this point. I could tell you how I would like to live. It's not traditional at all. It's not. I don't particularly want to get married, move into a house, and then we find somebody else and then they move into nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? I prefer a group housing type of environment where people are able to come and go as the love flows. Do I see that happening? I don't know. It's what I want. I'm gonna put it on my vision board. We'll see if it happens, but that's what I'm holding out for. And how will I, meet somebody that shares that vision to fall in love with? I don't know. I just don't know. And we'll see how that works out. But I'm sticking to it, and I'm going to live my life. So that's why I'm doing this podcast. Basically, as a person of color, I want to put this out there, my message of living polyamorous, ethical non-monogamous, practically out into the ether, out into the podcast landscape for people to hear how I, as a person of color, a male, African-American male, am doing this. How I go about dating, finding someone, building a relationship, all that type of stuff, because that's what I heard from those people, and I'm grateful for that. I listened to them on a weekly basis, and I heard them going through their breakups, planning their parties. I think I've heard two different people, podcasters, go through divorces and stay alive. I've heard people grow from being swingers, going into polyamory, triads form and dissolve, and people, break up. And I think it's interesting, and I'm here for it. I want to put that out there too. And like I said, I hope to add to my voice on this podcast and add podcasts to my studio and to my signal, to put it out there so more people can grow and gravitate to what polyamory is. Gravitate to what ethical non-monogamy is and could be for our community. For me, I think it's a bit more than just events and parties and dating. I think a lot of our community is just stuck there, just dating and finding and having events and forming these quote unquote tribes. And I know that some of them are growing and stuff like that, and they could be. Like I said, I left the groups, the Facebook groups, and I hear a little bit here and there about what's still going on, but for me, there's just drama and no vetting. I don't know what's wrong with vetting for group membership in order to grow a certain way. It's only there comes a point that you kind of have to leave newbies to newbie type things if you're gonna grow, if you're gonna keep growing. Because how long can you keep talking about the same thing and expect new conversations or growth to happen? You know what I mean? Like, even school, you don't stay in first grade. You grow. You go to second grade, third grade, fourth grade in order to continue the growth. And that's I can go into religion with that, but that's kind of what I have a problem with religion. I don't know how you progress in that. You keep studying the same thing in the same book. How do you grow and progress? How do you tackle new ideas if you keep talking about something that happened yesterday? So that's where I'm at with that. So I hope to create space for growth, for people to tackle harder ideas. I'm trying to start a group, a better group about polyamory on Facebook. I'm gonna start talking about that more, and so with that, that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's the blog. So next week I'll definitely be going back to the regular content, the regular format. I'll be back into the blog. Like I said, we'll be back into Swinging 101, and I will talk about how we got into swinging. I got into swinging, and read from the blog and tell you some of those stories and how basically to get into it if that's something you want to get into. I don't regret it. Like I said, it was definitely interesting. It was definitely fun, and I think would I do it again? Yeah, I would attend some events again. I don't think if I would ever be a swinger again, but I definitely would go to like a swingers club, like I said, swingers party. They know how to party and have a good time, and I love having a good time. So I'm gonna leave it right there for this section, and I'm gonna go into the present. Like I said, what's happening in my life right now. I was sick. I got the flu. I am permanent on a full-time job again, and I'm working every day, so I'm busy with that. I'm gonna do the podcast on either Friday night or Saturday night and post on Saturday night. Have it available on Saturday night, Sunday, and then I'm also going to have the video available probably like Sunday night, and have the whole thing up for the week. And then so I go back to work, I prepare for it. I'm also kind of start going out. I'm actually going out next Friday. Haven't been out for a while. I'm actually going to go out and hang with my friend Des at her event. I mentioned the Crucible, which is the BDSM dungeon in DC, located like up in Northwest, I think it is. She's actually hosting her thing. It's called the Whole Hive Presents Taste, Touch, and Feel, Love, Leather, and Lace. It's actually billed as an interactive adult play day. I'm thinking like, for me, I envision burlesque. I think it's like that. So I'm definitely going to go. It's on February 16th from 8 to 11. It's about $40. Like I said, I'm going to be there at the Crucible, which is members only, but I think you could buy tickets for this event. I think it's open. It's from 8 to 11 for the show, which is probably like dancers, dancing, some burlesque, some interactive things with the audience. And then after that, I think they have some like play dates and playtime, but I don't play with strangers, so I'm only going to be there, and I'm going by myself, so I don't have a date. I'm not looking for a date, won't have a date. I'm just happy to go out. It's on a Friday night, not a night that I normally go out, but it should be exciting. And like I said, I love leather and lace, and I'm not into BDSM, kind of into kink, but, you know, I kind of like things have to do with leather. So it should be interesting. So like I said, I'll be there. And I think, like I said, 8 to 11 is just the show. Then I think go from 11 to 2 is the actual, I think they have playtime. So it's like a party type environment, probably some play. And if you know anything about this lifestyle, when I say play, you know what I mean. Probably like sex. Well, I think it's on site. Probably not. You know, I'm thinking because they do serve alcohol, so I'm thinking there's some laws about serving alcohol and actually having on premises sex. So maybe not. But anyway, I'm leaving at 11. So hopefully I'll see somebody there. Who knows? So that's what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start going out again. I'm actually planning on going to a camping trip in June. My family reunion is in July in Texas. The camping trip is also June. I'll be hanging out with the DFW Black and Poly crew down there. With a friend of mine, Teresa. I'm working with her on getting us an RV. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I think the RV sleeps like 8, and we have space for more people. I'm flying into Austin, staying there for a night, then going out to the campsite, and I think it's from like Thursday to Sunday, June 22nd, something like that. So those are the events that I have planned for already for this year. I'm excited about, the event. I'm excited about camping. I was a big camper when I was a kid, and I look forward to camping again. So I have to incorporate all that into now podcasting on a regular basis. So it's going to be interesting to see what gets the energy, you know. There's no dating yet. I don't know how I'm going to go about that. It's kind of new for me. I always used to do the online thing. And I don't know, I kind of miss it. I had to actually, express to a couple of people this year how I was feeling, and I am feeling kind of lonely. Not lonely. I think it's the thing about the February coming up, and I'm not don't have anyone, I don't have any dating. So it's going to be interesting to see how I go about finding love in this lifestyle, not dealing with the groups, having to meet people in real life and actually, sharing my truth of being polyamorous and being ethically non-monogamous. So we'll see how that works out. I'm excited about it. So as you can see, I've been on this thing for more than 15 minutes, right? And I think I've expressed some ideas completely, and that's exciting. I also want to talk about the podcast studio. I'm back in my personal studio. I'm going to start buying new equipment soon, improving the sound and the video. I think the first thing I have lined up is to buy new condenser microphone and also a better webcam, a higher resolution. I think this is a bit grainy, and we'll see, adding some new lighting, some sound baffling to basically improve the look also, but you'll see. That's all coming up. So I'm excited. Like I said, now I'm actually investing money. It costs money to host a podcast. It's not something free. So when you see people asking for money or monetizing their podcast, they aren't making money. They're trying to just break even. I think podcasting is important. Like I said, it was been an important part of my life since 2000. I want to say 2000. I don't know, 2007, 8, somewhere around there, when I first found Stitcher. And I've listened to the podcast every day almost since then, and it is how I basically learn. It's basically how I interact, and I love being a part of this community. So I think that's going to be it for the day. Thank you for listening. Like I said, I do know that some people listen. People have hit me up on different platforms and, told me that they have gotten something from it. And I think that's cool. I do this, like I said, for me. I think it's important for me to go back and look on my life. And I, don't do this to be like, to become anything like viral or anything like that. I just do it because like I said, I think it's important, and it's good to look back on your life, and it's good to put your message out there. And I wish that more people would think about podcasting. And if you do, and you live in the DMV, hit me up. I can work with you on getting your message out there. Okay. So with that, I'm going to call it a wrap for today, and I will see you next week, either Friday or Saturday. If you listen, thanks. If you don't, thanks. Just thanks for being in this beautiful world of ours. Always remember to love and respect yourself first, and everything else will take care of itself. Peace and namaste.